Oshinoko chapter 134 is here, and we have a really interesting chapter this week. A chapter that follows the aftermath of chapter 133's craziness and also shows us that Ai may very well have been much more vulnerable than we all thought she was. Chapter 133 was quite the shocking chapter. We saw Kana tell Ruby straight to her face that she hated her and that she had been jealous and envious of her for a long time. Was this her acting to help out a friend, or were these words straight from Kana's heart? Well, chapter 134 dives into that, so let's look at it. So chapter 134 starts what looks to be a few days or maybe even a week after the confrontation with Kana. Now, I wondered if we were going to pick up from where the last chapter left off, but that's not the case. Time has passed, but it's not stated how much, though it hasn't been a large amount of time for sure. The opening page shows us the cold atmosphere between Ruby and Kana. Ruby tries to say hi, but Kana kind of just blanks her and walks past her. Poor Memcho is stuck in the middle of this, but she's blunt. She asks if the two had a fight. Kana is short with her response, but Ruby is equally as blunt as Memcho, saying exactly what happened in the she just said that she hates me and doesn't want to see my face. This completely blows Memcho away, and I honestly think this panel of her perfectly captures how we all must have reacted or looked like when we were reading those panels in the last chapter. It was brilliant. Now we then move on to school, presumably the next day. In this chapter, we also see the return of both Minami and Frill, which is really good to see. Two top-tier girls that I'd love to see more of, that's for sure. They're sat with Ruby at lunch and they're discussing what had happened between her and Kana. Frill theorizes that perhaps Kana had just completely gotten herself into the role as Nino. She likens it to herself by saying that when she acts, when she is in that character, she really is in love with the person who is acting as her lover. Minami is shocked, saying that getting into the role makes you go that far. Frill explains that when in character, she does make herself believe that she is in love. However, it does make her mind wander a bit into wishing that she could be in a real relationship in her private life. She continues, and it's quite comical really. She says that it's mysterious because as soon as filming is over, those feelings of love completely fade away. She goes from being in love with the opposing actor to thinking, oh my god, this guy is gross and his breath stinks. One of the girls is like, I feel bad for that guy, and I love it. Now, Minami adds that she's heard that there were these two actors playing a couple who would actually go to hotels together near the shooting location as their way of getting into the roles, but they'd break up pretty quickly afterwards. Frill adds that it's all about tricking the mind. She does this to herself when acting so that she can manifest those feelings that don't exist for herself. Feelings that she's never felt before, or reacting to situations how that character would, not how she would. She says that you're not able to really act unless you go that far. But she says that's not how everyone does it. She does say that some actors make strict plans, and then there are others who just play that character how they feel like doing it. However, those who wing it like that don't last long. There's a certain quality that needs to be hit, and if they can't hit that quality, then it's over for them. Frill explains that as soon as that quality isn't there, the director and supervisor will start to give their own instructions, and it's their misleading guidance, like them trying to figure out how they want the actor to act that character, how they feel the character should be, that the situation just gets really messy. She says that in that moment, you feel like you're running with a blindfold. And I gotta say, this is peak Oshinoko right here. I love these insights we get into the different worlds within the industry. And I picked up from this that acting on a set is kind of similar to acting on stage in regards to the saying of losing the crowd. The crowd in this case is the director and supervisor. Lose them and it's game over. Frill is saying that this quality is what separates the amateurs from the pros, and as soon as that quality of performance is not there, those actors will mess up and lose all sense of direction because they're following the guidance of these two people. They forget if they are performing as the character or as themselves. They're following these directions without sight. However, if you completely lose yourself in the character, if you maintain that level of quality, then the acting will guide you to where you need to go effortlessly. Frill's whole point here is that she thinks what Kana did in expressing her inner feelings to Ruby was a result of Kana being such a great actor. She has gotten herself to that level of quality. She has tricked her own mind into thinking and behaving just as Nino would. However, Ruby isn't sold. Ruby knows Kana very well, and she knows that the words that Kana said to her that day were not the result of very good acting, but they were true words. Words that came from Kana's own heart. We then move on to Kana and Memcho. Memcho asks Kana, even though they had a fight, why did you say such harsh things? Kana doesn't really answer the question, but says, well, you should also be feeling these same complaints. You're an idol. Don't tell me you don't feel any envy towards her. Kana continues saying it's fine. Even if it ends, I'm quitting Bikamachi anyway. Memcho's like, nah, you're just saying that. But then we get this really dark panel showing Kana's heart shattering from the inside as she says, if you unleash the emotions hiding within, you'll notice how much you were enduring. She begins opening up to Memcho here, saying, feeling jealous, envious, I even have feelings of wishing Ruby would get hurt. She has an epiphany-like moment where she says, I see. This is what love and hate is. Ruby, I'm getting closer to Nino, step by step. And it's crazy, from an outburst of her feelings to help out Ruby in the last chapter, we now see that this is perhaps way more darker than it looked last week. It may just be me, but this conversation felt a little more menacing, like a person who had bottled things up for too long and was beginning to change for the worse. The line about wishing Ruby would get hurt was definitely a shocking one, and I feel like I kind of just want to bring Kana back to the light a little bit, you know? Now, the last portion of the chapter focuses on Ruby sitting in the dressing room on her own wearing Ai's wig, and it's a very melancholy scene. It's brought up to the director that Ruby has been doing this for some time. The woman asks, can't you do something? She also says, it's because you bullied her too much on set, but we as the viewers, we know the real reason why Ruby is like this. We see that Ruby is pondering over her time with Kana, desperately trying to figure out at what point Kana hated her. Was it this moment or was it at this time? She thinks about how Kana must have felt. She hated me so much that she couldn't hold on to it. She then wonders how I dealt with it. She asks, why were you fine with it? How did you not get hurt? As Ruby contemplates her mother's emotions, she begins to cry, and as she looks into the mirror, she sees the reflection of Ai Hoshino crying with 2 black stars in her eyes, and I've got to say, it's a very powerful panel. As Ruby notices this, she is shocked herself, and we see that she has 2 white stars in her eyes. It's an absolutely amazing set of panels, these. I really was drawn to them, and they're just gorgeous. Going back to Ruby, she says, perhaps you were always crying too. The final panel reveals a broken image of Ai as Ruby questions, Ai Hoshino was also just a fragile girl? Wow, bro, that last panel was crazy. I've got to say, this series really knows how to capture your attention when it draws its panels in those like darker and moodier styles. And that one of Ai here, absolutely crazy. It's the dead eyes with the black stars in them, the tears, the way she's slumped over, the mystery that is Ai Hoshino grows deeper and deeper with each chapter at the moment. And I absolutely love this. We see in this chapter that just as Kana says she's starting to turn into Nino step by step, Ruby is also seemingly turning into Ai. And I've got to say, this chapter was huge for Ruby's growth and for her understanding about who Ai really was. You know, Ruby had always thought Ai was a strong person. But with the recent events, Ruby realized that her mother couldn't have been happy if the people she thought were her friends evidently despised her presence. As a result, Ruby may have finally grasped Ai's emotions here. What a great chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next, though from the looks of it, Oshinoko is on break next week, so if I have that right, we do have, unfortunately, a little weight on our hands. But what did you think of this chapter? Do you think Ruby and Kana are becoming more like Ai and Nino? And what did you think of those final panels? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you wait for the next video to drop, why not check out this video where I talk about how true the world of Oshinoko really is from the perspective of a full-time YouTuber. I put a lot of time and emotion into that one, so definitely check that out. But guys, that's it from me. I'll see you soon with some more. Till then, take care. Peace, peace.